So ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of NFL Picks, hosted by yours truly, Dan Mitchell. NFL Week 1 literally starts tomorrow with the Baltimore Ravens and the Kansas City Chiefs, so I am going to be releasing all of my picks every single Wednesday from here on out through the season. Now, I do want to let everyone know that I am sort of basing all of these picks off of the BetUS Sportsbook, right in which this video is powered. Now, BetUS doesn't have some mid-promo to get you to sign up. They have the best promo on the face of the planet, ladies and gentlemen. They are matching 125% of your first 3 deposits all the way up to $2,000. So not your first deposit, not even into your second, but all 3 of your first deposits will be matched. It is an incredible promo, and I will be placing all of my bets on this platform right here. If you want to fade me, if you want to tell me, the link is in the description and in the pinned comment. Now smash that like button, folks, subscribe, and turn on bell notifications. My goal is to reach 50,000 subscribers before the end of the NFL season. I know that we can do it. So Baltimore Ravens and the Kansas City Chiefs, Thursday Night Football. As we remember, the Kansas City Chiefs dropped their Week 1 matchup against the Detroit Lions. Historically, they do typically start off slow ever since Tyreek Hill was out of the building, but we know that it is impossible to bet against the Kansas City Chiefs in general. See a Baltimore Ravens team that is coming into Arrowhead, and I know everyone is hyped about Derrick Henry now being their running back. Everyone is salivating over what their run scheme is going to look like. However, I do have some massive concerns for the Baltimore Ravens offensive line. They lost 3 of their starters from last year. Unfortunately, they had to say goodbye to their offensive line coach who passed away. Certainly rest in peace. But I see this offensive line having some issues, at least at the beginning of the season. It's going to take some time for them to build chemistry, to really understand a full week of football and execution. So for that reason alone, I think the Kansas City Chiefs pass rush is really going to disrupt a lot of what Baltimore is trying to do with home field advantage. I am going with the Kansas City Chiefs. As far as bets are concerned, I'm staying away from the over and under. I'm staying away from the point spread. I think this game will still be close, so I'm probably just going to roll with the money line with the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, next up, I have the Green Bay Packers and the Philadelphia Eagles facing off in Brazil on Friday night. And I'll tell you what, I have so much respect for the front office over in Philly for being able to identify their weakness from last year. I would say that the secondary played a large part in the collapse of Philadelphia last year, but then they respond to bringing in Vic Fangio, draft Quinyon Mitchell, who is my favorite corner coming out of the draft, Cooper DeJean. I think this defense is about to completely shut down the Green Bay Packers. I love Jordan Love. I think that he is going to be in the MVP conversation. I think he will lead the Green Bay Packers into the playoffs this year, but I just have a gut feeling that the Philadelphia Eagles are about to walk away with the victory down in Brazil. Now, as you can see, we have all the lines here, the point spread, money line, the over-under total. I'll tell you what bet I am going with today. Hands down, Green Bay Packers under 23 points in general. I love what this Philadelphia Eagles defense is going to be putting out, and I said this a long time ago on TikTok and Instagram. I do not think the Green Bay Packers score more than 20. I think this is going to be an absolute lockdown performance from Philadelphia, so Packers under 23 points scored is my lock. Now, next up, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Miami Dolphins. Jacksonville is heading down to Miami. They also ended up having a collapse, dealing with a lot of injuries that Trevor Lawrence had to play through toward the back half of the season. But then you look at the Miami Dolphins. While you do have all of your bells and whistles with Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, who seem to be full participants, I have a massive, massive concern with the Miami Dolphins offensive line and their ability to protect Tua. I know Tua gets the ball out as fast as humanly possible, but Doug Peterson typically is able to get the most out of his defense when it comes into offenses such as this. I have a feeling that Jacksonville does a great job at being able to take away Tua's first read, and that pass rush against the Miami Dolphins offense is going to cause Tua some fits. On the opposite end of the spectrum, I see Travis Etienne absolutely eating against the Miami Dolphins, particularly within their run defense. I don't see their defensive line getting a lot of pass rush, so I do have the Jacksonville Jaguars pulling off the upset on week 1. Now, I could go money line right here, but what's very attractive to me is I am going to take the point spread for the Jacksonville Jaguars, plus 3.5. So say that this game is as close as I think it is going to be, at least you have a bit of an insurance policy. So now next up, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Atlanta Falcons. And damn, the Atlanta Falcons bring in Kirk Cousins. They shock the world and draft a quarterback in the first round. But I like what Atlanta's doing. They've certainly made quite a few investments, obviously bringing in a lot of help on the defensive side of the football. One of the best safety tandems, I would say, in the league. Of course, Matthew Judon adding right to their pass rush. And perhaps this year might be the year where Kyle Pitts, Drake London, and Bijan Robinson are used more than simply distractions for what Arthur Smith was putting out on the table. Now, yes, this is an Arthur Smith revenge game, but I don't think it is going to be enough. I'm going to be choosing the Atlanta Falcons at home right now. However, my best bet here, as you can see on the BetUS Sportsbook, the point spread for the Pittsburgh Steelers is at plus 3. That is very attractive to me right now. And surprisingly enough, I also like the under at over or under 42.5. Both of these defenses are very good. I see Atlanta being a great offense this year, but I could also see them starting off pretty slow. So whatever one you feel more comfortable with, but I love Pittsburgh plus 3, and I also love the under. Now, next up, we have the Minnesota Vikings and the New York Giants. The New York Giants are going to be unveiling the ugliest uniforms, certainly in the history of the NFL, and they're going up against Sam Darnold and the Vikings. Now, this is going to be very difficult to predict because both teams certainly have their share of problems. But when it comes down into it, once you take Sam Darnold and Daniel Jones out of the equation, I have to side with the team that has the best supporting cast around their quarterback and the defensive coordinator that I have much more respect for, that I think is going to get the most out of this unit. Hence why I have the Minnesota Vikings winning this game. Now, they are 1-point favorites going into MetLife. I'm going to stay away from the point spread. I'm going to stay away from the over-under, but I will be taking the money line for the Minnesota Vikings. So now next up, we have the Carolina Panthers and the New Orleans Saints. Dave Canales now is the head coach over in Carolina, and he has been known to be the quarterback whisperer. And so he certainly got the most out of Geno Smith a couple of years ago. He got the most out of Baker Mayfield over in Tampa. The question is, can he get Bryce Young to get on the exact same page? I think the New Orleans Saints still have a lot of their core coming back. And so I could see Olave certainly having a hell of a game. I could see Alvin Kamara playing very well, especially since he's trying to have a tryout for his contract that he will be looking for next season. I have the Saints winning this one, but I'll tell you what, with plus 4 underdogs for the Carolina Panthers, this, in my opinion, is very attractive. I think this game is going to be closer than people want to admit, so give me the Panthers plus 4, but I do have the New Orleans Saints winning this game. Up, we have the New England Patriots and the Cincinnati Bengals. Finally have Joe Burrow back from his injury. Will Jamar Chase play this game? We don't know by the time that I am recording this video right now. If he is not out there, then I'll tell you what, this plus 9 for the New England Patriots looks very, very attractive. This Cincinnati Bengals team not only lost their offensive coordinator, they lost Joe Mixon, replaced him with Zach Moss going into the season. And then if Jamar Chase's contract situation is not settled, all they're going to have is a rookie wide receiver in which they drafted in the first round and also T. Higgins on the outside. There's no more Tyler Boyd here. I love what Joe Burrow can do. He does start off relatively slow. The Cincinnati Bengals didn't start off too hot last year. I don't see that changing, especially if Jamar is not out. Even if Jamar is not playing, I still like the Patriots at plus 9. I have the Cincinnati Bengals ultimately winning this game. However, plus 9 is almost too attractive not to take. Now, next up, we have the Tennessee Titans and the Chicago Bears. And as many of you know, I have picked the Chicago Bears to win the NFC North this year. I am very high on Caleb Williams. I am very high on their supporting cast. And I'm even high on some of the pieces that they have on the defensive side of the ball. Matt Eberflus is a different conversation. Can he rise to the occasion, or will he be fired by this time next year? I like the Chicago Bears winning this game. However, put some respect on the Tennessee Titans name. I have once said that they are sneaky loaded. If Will Levis can step on up and make some damn plays, take a step from last year, I think this Tennessee Titans team is going to do a lot better than people are willing to give them credit for. Now, on top of that, their defense is also very scary with L'Jarius Sneed as one of their starting corners. Solid pass rush with Jeffrey Simmons. I see them giving some issues to Caleb Williams. All we saw from Caleb was a couple of drives in the preseason, and this is truly his first experience playing all 4 quarters. I think the Tennessee Titans defense gives him some issues. However, Chicago Bears win this game, but right as you guys can see, the Tennessee Titans at +4 is nearly a lock for me. This is going to be a back and forth sort of game. Now, next up, we have the Arizona Cardinals and the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills open up against the 32nd best run defense in the entire NFL in 2023, one of the worst offensive lines. It's one of the worst secondaries going into the league. One thing that looks interesting to me is that I see the Buffalo Bills really focusing on the run game here, which in turn is going to chew up the clock and not give a lot of opportunities for both sides of the team. The Arizona Cardinals also do this. They love to run the ball. They finished 3rd in the league last year. So I see this being a very much ground and pound sort of football match on Sunday. With that being said, I have the Buffalo Bills winning, but when you look at the over-under, 48 is very, very attractive because I really do not see this Arizona Cardinals team going blow for blow with the Buffalo Bills, and I see both teams really chewing up clock with a run-first sort of approach. I love the under here, but the Buffalo Bills end up winning. Next up, we have the Houston Texans and the Indianapolis Colts. And folks, I know that Houston ended up having a hell of an offseason free agency, adding Joe Mixon, Stephon Diggs, Danielle Hunter. This team made as many investments as possible after seeing what CJ Stroud was able to do for them last year. The Indianapolis Colts, on the other hand, had a very quiet offseason. However, I do love the idea of Jonathan Taylor going up against this Houston Texans run defense. That was their Achilles heel last year, and I don't see that changing, at least toward the beginning of the season. Still a lot of question marks with their linebackers and everybody on the defensive line outside of Danielle Hunter. And so, of course, with D'Amico Autry is out for a couple of games due to suspension. So I have the Indianapolis Colts, surprisingly enough, taking the upset right now, folks. I personally am going to go with the money line here, but at the same time, if anybody wants to feel a bit safer, +3 for the Indianapolis Colts will also be a solid bet. But I am feeling the money line for the Indianapolis Colts. You know that there's going to be a crazy upset this week. This is my choice. Now, don't get me wrong. I think that CJ Stroud is going to have a hell of a game. I think that Nico Collins, I think that Stephon Diggs are going to do very well. But I think the rush attack with Anthony Richardson and Jonathan Taylor will be too much for this run defense. And I don't think CJ Stroud will have enough time to come back and win. Now, next up, we have the Las Vegas Raiders and the LA Chargers. Everybody is so thrilled with Jim Harbaugh taking the lead. Justin Herbert finally has a solid offensive-minded head coach. And so, however, his weapons are still on the bit of the fringe. I do not have a lot of confidence in the Las Vegas Raiders this year into being able to make a lot of noise and win the division, make the playoffs by any stretch of the imagination. But why I have a lot of respect for them is simply their pass rush. I mean, adding Christian Wilkins, Max Crosby, this defensive line is about to be causing the LA Chargers offensive line absolute fits. I like what Harbaugh is putting into place into completely improving this offensive line and run game. I think Harbaugh is attempting to build a Baltimore Ravens of the West, if you will. But I think the Las Vegas Raiders pass rush is going to be too much. I also see Zamir White absolutely going off. And so with Gardner Minshew able to play it safe, just get the ball to Devontae Adams, I see the Las Vegas Raiders coming out with the victory here. So money line is what I am going with, but say that you wanted to play it safe, then +3 works as well. Next up, we have the Washington Commanders and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers were certainly a surprise last year, the year after Tom Brady. Baker Mayfield looked fantastic, but like I said earlier in this video, how much of it had to do with Dave Canales, the quarterback whisperer? Have Mike Evans coming back, still have Chris Godwin, still have a pretty solid defense, although that they are aging. I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers winning this game. However, don't sleep on the Washington Commanders. I know that they had a fire sale of all of their defense last year, shipped off Jahan Dotson to the Philadelphia Eagles earlier, and so about a week ago, but make no mistake, I think the Washington Commanders are going to make this game very interesting. I love the Washington Commanders +3, and I also love the Tampa Bay Buccaneers winning at the end. Now, next up, we have the Denver Broncos and we have the Seattle Seahawks, all right? Now, both teams have a lot of new acquisitions added to the roster, the front office, etc. The Denver Broncos have Bo Nix, who really impressed during the preseason. The Seattle Seahawks ended up having a brand new head coach. Now, you look at this overall spread, and the Seattle Seahawks are -6 favorites. While I agree, and while I have the Seattle Seahawks coming out on top with the victory here, I think +6 is a bit disrespectful. I think Bo Nix does enough. He's safe with the ball. He checks it down enough. Some question marks around the Seattle Seahawks defense, right? It's going to take time for McDonald to build the personnel in which is going to work for him. So I have Denver keeping it close. I have them covering at +6, but the Seattle Seahawks will win this game. Now, next up, I have the Dallas Cowboys and the Cleveland Browns. The Dallas Cowboys are heading up to Cleveland after the Cleveland Browns ended up dropping a heartbreaker against the Houston Texans last year. Stefanski is one of my favorite head coaches in the league. Love what he did on defense. And I would say that the Cleveland Browns have the best defense in the NFL. I think it won't be proven until week 4, week 5, once we see all of this. However, very close. It's just 1-point favorites over in Cleveland right now. I'll be honest with you, I have the Dallas Cowboys coming out on top on this game. So give me the Dallas Cowboys money line. I'm staying away from the point spread. I'm staying away from the over-under. Somehow I see the Dallas Cowboys coming out on top. Next up, I have the Los Angeles Rams and the Detroit Lions, the Matthew Stafford revenge game. He was sent home in the playoffs last year in his stadium that he started his career off with. Now, the LA Rams have a lot of question marks on defense, right? Obviously, with Aaron Donald retiring, and right now their best player is Trey White, who was injured for the past 2 years on the defensive side of the ball. I like some of the promise they have on the defensive line, but this defense is going to be an issue. The Detroit Lions, on the other hand, they ended up really addressing their issues in the offseason. They have a lot of their returners that made them great. But surprisingly enough, I think this is going to come down to an absolute shootout. I think this is going to be an absurdly high-scoring game. Almost anytime you see a Dan Campbell-led Lions game, the over almost always hits. But surprisingly enough, I see Matthew Stafford getting his revenge. I see Puka having a hell of a game. I see Kyron Williams doing his thing. Obviously, Cooper Kupp. I have the LA Rams winning this game, surprisingly enough. So me personally, I'm probably going to take +3.5 because I know it's just going to be back and forth at this point. But you would be completely fine with taking +3.5 LA Rams or the over at 51. Last but not least, we have the New York Jets and the San Francisco 49ers. Monday Night Football. And I would say that outside of the Buffalo Bills game, obviously, this is the game that I will be watching like a hawk, all right? You have the San Francisco 49ers that had so much drama surrounding their organization this offseason with Brandon Ayuk, with Trent Williams. Trent Williams ended up reporting to the facilities leading up into week 1, so it appears that San Francisco is going to be at an all-time high. But then you have the New York Jets, who are still dealing with a Hassan Reddick situation, but let's be honest with ourselves, his pass rush is still going to be completely fine. Aaron Rodgers, let's really hope that this dude plays the entire season. I think that he will. Thank God this game is not at MetLife where he doesn't need to worry about this turf. Breece Hall, Braylon Allen, this is going to be a damn game. Surprisingly enough, I have the New York Jets winning this game. I have a feeling that they're going to edge it out. I think this defense is going to be too much for San Francisco to handle, and I'm probably going to take New York Jets +4. I'm not going to take the money line because I want to play it safe here, although I feel that the Jets will come out with a victory. +4 seems to be the best bet in my opinion. Over under 43.5, that could also be attractive. We're talking about perhaps the number 1 and number 2 defense in the NFL in its entirety, but I'm still leaning pretty heavily over at +4. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in to another edition of NFL Picks. Do keep in mind I will be doing this each and every single Wednesday, so if you haven't subscribed and turned on bell notifications, highly recommend that you do so. And also check out BetUS. I'm putting all of these picks on BetUS right now. Link is in description and in the pinned comment. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you tomorrow.